Good morning. It's April 24th, 2022. It's 7:49 a.m. my time. And I woke up this morning with this incredible dream. I could see this sort of blurry, obscure kind of vision of a large control panel, and I saw hands come in that seemed to be pressing buttons in a way that emulated to me that there was a central power in control of everything, and yet we couldn't understand or see exactly who they were. And then I woke up and I was trying to process my thoughts this morning, and I thought it was an interesting dream in so much, again, it's somewhat Orwellian, but the notion is exactly what is going on, I think, for most of you or us, but not me. And not me because I've gone the distance and gotten the answers that everything and everyone in power is preventing you from understanding. I never wanted to be this guy. I really could never in a million years believe that this was the way things are. But things have advanced in such a rapid way. I mean, a lot of what I'm revealing to you pretty much knew in 2006, 7, and 8. But it's 2022 and technology has increased, and the contortions of power have solidified even further than they had been before. And some of my themes are that, look, the last 20 years has just been one continuum. I mean, it's really been a continuum ever since, I don't know, the 70s, quite frankly. And a lot of that is stuff that we just don't understand because we can't see it. But I've been studying it my whole life. It's the consolidation of power through globalism, through policy that has been rigged by the Ivy League Wall Street meritocracy that includes, incredibly important white shoe law firms and so forth that, carry out the policy or the dictates through, lobbyists that have influence over politicians, and many of these politicians have been there literally most of our lives. I mean, it's ridiculous. All of these old people in control, and they've been, hanging on to control in a way that's just basically fueled this insane disparity of wealth through a fictional economy that is now a techno-feudal empire. That's what it is. Remember that term. It's a techno-feudal empire. I keep coming into these sorts of things to try to frame what the power is. I mean, most of the time I'm saying it's corporate fascism undergirded by a criminal syndicate, which it is. But then, the techno-feudalism works really well as well, because none of this could happen as efficiently as it does without technology. I mean, there's more and more stories out every single day of how the system can cancel people that are, let's just say, resisting mainstream, okay? And speaking truth to power and that sort of thing, and have been really for the last 13 years. But I know the con has been canceled. I know it has. I don't have direct evidence of it. I just know it has, because the information that we provide is so detailed from such incredible sources that are the top whistleblowers at the top financial institutions, and then the top regulators at the top institutions of our federal government, from the Federal Bureau of Investigations and the Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission, and of course attorneys general all over the United States, that tell us exactly what happened. And we laid it out in detail. It's a murder mystery. We all love murder mysteries, but it's the murder of the American dream that nobody understands because it got canceled. And so who the hell am I? I'm this guy, Patrick Lovell. Who cares? I really deeply, deeply care about liberty and justice for all, and it's the way I'm hardwired. And the bottom line is we've got it, and you've got to see it as soon as possible. You've got to tell everybody that you know that's not part of the 1% or the top 0.001%, quite frankly, which is 99.9% of us. And I know you know somebody who lost their house to foreclosure, even if you don't know it. A lot of people live in shame and, that were wiped out. And that's just one aspect of it. But anybody who is struggling, quite frankly, needs to see this, which is most of us, right? So it's at www.thecon.tv. Rent it or watch it for free. If you go to your library, you can get a library card called Hoopla, but it's $2 an episode, and literally tens of millions of people need to see it, because we've got to create a answer to what's currently on display. I know from the feeds and the numbers that I'm seeing from people in the comments and everything else that everybody, a lot of you, want to look at Obama as the problem. Obama is a big part of the problem. And Obama is out on the campaign trail right now, starting to do what we've seen time and time again, really, quite frankly, since Black Lives Matter. This is going to become an identity politic initiative from the Wall Street party, quite frankly. It's going to be all things anti-Trump. And of course, those on the Trump side of the equation are all about blood libel, right? Blood libel being that those that are in control of power are running this international sort of, sex ring that they rape children and then maybe, suck the blood out of them or some sort of vampire stuff that, quite frankly, has been going on for a very long time. And many, many people are vulnerable to that. What you need to understand is that former President Barack Obama came into power riding a populist wave called Change We Could Believe In. He basically said he was going to decimate the corporate state. He didn't do anything like it. What he did was he put everybody in power that had created the system we're in. They got put in power to clean up the devastation that Wall Street set up tens of millions of people in a criminal enterprise so massive that it brought the global economy to its knees. And when it stopped and nobody had money and everybody was going bankrupt, and what I mean by everybody, not just people who were losing their houses, who got set up in this scheme that's on display in www.thecon.tv, but of course, the investment banks and the too big to fail banks and all of these other huge financial apparatuses that a lot of people out there, your eyes glaze over when we say the banks, the banks, the banks. What you don't understand is the banks' role in our economy and our society, specifically when they killed the golden goose of manufacturing and offshored it and in this 4 decades long globalism, which was basically financialization worldwide. And then both parties were in on it, quite frankly. But I'll tell you, the legal class, the professionals that work inside policy, those that might be, fundamentally liberal by way of, social issues. But when it comes to business, man, they are what they are. They're all about the big money. And they got big, big, big fees in the aftermath of these absolute tragedies that they've created because they always get fees rebuilding the system. And quite frankly, in 2008, again, I continue to tell you that the American people were sold that we were going to do $700 billion in relief packages to create liquidity in the market by purchasing bad assets off the bank's books. Instead, we spent $29 trillion. It's a phenomenal amount of money. Our GDP is about $25 trillion. The 2008 Great Financial Crisis created a $41.6 trillion hit to the economy. So things were extremely sluggish, except for those who got to loot and steal based on their own crime syndicate to wipe everybody out. And then ultimately, they start rebuilding this situation. But then we were on the verge of COVID and something happened like that again. I'm telling you right now, there was another 20 trillion plus that was baked into the system from the Federal Reserve through emergency stimulus that went to backstop derivatives trades globally. And we still don't know exactly what was the causation of that. But it was and that happened in 2019 before COVID. And then we had all of the COVID acts and the CARES Act and so on and so forth. But in the end, again, I continue to try to educate you. The Federal Reserve is the central bank of the world because the United States won World War II, became the superpower, the dollar became the world's global reserve currency, and that created an abundance of trade that we could loan against because of asset value. And then when you get to this stage of the game post-2008, when we spent trillions of dollars into the system, into the people that created the problem that didn't go to jail because the DOJ and the FBI didn't do their job, which again is on display in the Con, and then ultimately they got trillions of dollars again in 2019. What they did was the Federal Reserve is supposed to create full employment and to create low inflation. What it did is it just made the super rich insanely super rich. It consolidated their power even further. And I'm not talking regular rich people that are like in the 5 to 10 million range. That could be doctors or brain surgeons or some entrepreneur who runs a relatively successful company or franchises all sorts of different sorts of operations. Those people, a lot of those people work their ass off, and they might sometimes be questionable, but most of those guys are within the realm of success, which should be obviously rewarded. But their tax schemes and everything else are much, much less in the hierarchy than when we're talking about these ultra rich we call them oligarchs because that's what they are. These guys in tech, these guys in finance, if you look at the Forbes 400 richest people, most of them are hedge fund guys or private equity or some sort of variant within asset managers. The people who control the money, and they control the money for themselves. So when you continue to spend trillions of dollars into a system that they can manipulate for themselves, for their benefit, what they've created in the interim is this insanity of inflation because of monopolies and all of these types of things that have created, because of the global supply chain and everything else, this huge increase in costs, not to mention the war in the Ukraine, which is increasing the cost of fuel. And again, that's why I say, it's the same story of the 20 years. So when I go back to that first reference of the obscure sort of power that's controlling the switches of this incredible machine, it's this techno-feudal empire that really operates in front of our face. It's these financial guys from Wall Street. It's the tech barons that make sure that they can, wipe out dissent. And I'm one of them. But I think I'm probably the most dangerous, to be honest with you, because I'm the one that put together the details of the evidence of the facts that if in front of the American people should and could lead to a populist movement that demands accountability. So therefore, we create a new justice party that is able to find people who need to run for office to be able to be equipped with these facts to rise to the power as quickly as possible to get the reins of control back for a country of we the people. So there's two choices as it stands right now. We've got the new robber barons, which are represented by the Obama Democrats, and then we've got the new Confederacy, which is the Republican Party represented by Donald Trump. All of them are about thieving, scheming, deceiving, and stealing, and it's all fueled by the central bank. It's not that hard, people, and it's leading to World War III because Putin, literally, just a quick history lesson, I'll be done with this episode. Back in 1998, that was really the first version of this liquidity crisis that came through derivatives of long-term capital management that basically bankrupted the Soviet Union. There was insane pain in Russia, and I think, quite frankly, Putin never forgot it. So Putin ultimately starts stealing all of the assets out of Russia with his oligarchs, puts it in Western markets to grow it, and then figures out all of these differentiations of what he's done, including Trump, by the way. And then ultimately, I think this was all planned from a standpoint of trying to topple the US dollar. We'll see what happens in the long run, but I do know that the Russians have been aggregating gold for a very long time, and they've got a lot of oil and gas and leverage in Western Europe, and they've got incredibly important minerals. And I think Ukraine has an abundance of raw materials that are very important to the global economy. So I think Putin knew what he was doing all along. Now, I think he got, jammed up on how far the Ukrainians were willing to fight. And now we've got, more and more escalated initiatives by the United States with weapons and everything else. And, what better situation after COVID to wipe out millions of more people to keep people unaware of this insane hijacking of the United States Central Bank by criminal players. I mean, it's the Batman infinitum, and it's all on display in the con. And my name is Patrick Lovell, and what I brought to you is the truth. And I need tens of millions of people to find hashtag Exodus, hashtag the resurrection, hashtag failure is not an option, hashtag truth is marching. I'm telling you over and over and over, the power is doing exactly what I'm telling you they're doing. They have prevented this truth from getting to you. So if you're going to work all the time, you're not getting anywhere, you're struggling to make ends meet, you're struggling to keep up, you're struggling to understand the system, you're struggling to understand how the system affects you, all of that is answered in the con. And if you don't have that as a fundamental awareness, there's no way you can turn the light bulb on in your mind to be effective at actually pushing back with the power of the citizenry you've got that is being eroded every single day by this techno-feudal power that operates under a corporate fascist system that's undergirded by a mob syndicate. You've got to wake up. You've got to come to the truth. It's only the only way. There's going to be massive sufferings for so many others. And by the way, I mean, my God, since 2000, between 9/11 and 2008 and everything that happened in the war in Iraq and Syria and all of these things, ultimately in COVID and Now this, I mean, come on, guys. The suffering has been insane because a very small group of organized and viciously committed people at their power has controlled the system, and that's the power that's operating the keyboards behind the system, of which in my dream last night I could only see their hands. We gotta purge corruption. We have got to come together, and we've got to be the citizens of the United States to save ourselves and the future, because I think really everything's on the line. Onwards and upwards.